The Interpreter's Toolbox is full of life experiences. Tech, food, business, language. It's about life. It's not just about the deaf and hard of hearing community. It's time to open up and experience the Interpreter's Toolbox. Hi everyone, Mike Wilkerson from the Interpreter's Toolbox podcast here. Today I'm going to be interviewing a man named Jim Garrison. Thanks for coming, Jim. We're talking about something called Archon. It's a huge convention here in St. Louis, and Jim is one of the administrators in regard to the convention. And so we're going to be asking him questions about the convention and learning more about Archon. We'll call it Archon. Jim, so what is Archon? What is that?
Science fiction and fantasy convention. Started here 34 years ago. It's a gathering of people that are interested in all aspects of science fiction, to science, to fantasy, to costuming, every possible thing it could be.
And so it happens once a year, twice a year?
Once a year, usually in the fall.
And where is it held?
This year we're going to be at the Westport Plaza area. In the past we've been over in Illinois in Collinsville, downtown, and out in North County.
Do you remember when, what was the name of the hotel? It was that the old
Henry VIII.
Fancy, Henry VIII Hotel. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Did you go to all of the years that it was there? Or?
I started going at Archon 7.
And now it's number 34.
34.
And so have you gone to all of those over the years?
No, I joined the Army and had to go to basic training at one time, so I missed a couple of them in there.
Oh, that's great. That's great. It sounds like it's a lot of fun. What do you do with Archon?
I wear a lot of different hats. This year I'm supporting the logistics department as well as the volunteer department.
Oh, great. So what does that mean, logistics? What are we talking about?
Getting stuff there, helping out throughout the convention, making sure all the equipment's where it's supposed to be. And
do you do anything else during the convention, or you just focus on the volunteer aspects? Or do you actually participate, or what do you do?
No, I do, because I do the website as well. This year I'll be taking a lot more photographs to be able to put on the web.
Oh, wow. And so is that going to be on Facebook, or do you have a website on its own?
Right.
Yeah, what is the website? Do you remember?
www.archon, ARCHONSTL.org, and then /, and then whatever year.
So suppose
this year it's 34.
Archon 7/7/34, whatever.
Yeah, we didn't. We've only started doing that for the last 10 or so. So you can always just go to the archonstl.org and then link from there.
Okay, that's great. That's fantastic. I always talk to friends, and they always talk about something with costumes there.
Sure.
What happens with costumes at Archon? What happens?
Well, costuming is a big deal at Archon because it is the largest costuming demonstration and performance in the Midwest. We have people from all around the country that come in just for the costuming part of it. The Grand Masquerade takes place on Saturday night, and it's very well attended. Almost everybody goes to the convention ends up going to the Grand Masquerade, and they'll have 20 to 30 people from the professionals who do the kind of mascotting or the kind of costuming that like mascots wear for sports events, to people who will take regular clothing and sew and create their own different costumes.
Wow, that's great. I remember seeing a whole bunch of Jedi people,
Sure.
a whole bunch of Star Trek people that go.
All kinds of different.
Talk about some of the more elaborate costumes that you've seen at Archon.
There have been a couple of really big ones that were multiple people to operate. We had a worm that attacked, like from a 50s sci-fi movie, that took, I want to say, 8 or 9 people to operate. There have been a couple of different ones that there was a dinosaur, I want to say, either last year or the year before, they kind of all blur together a little bit, so I'm not real sure what year it was, but it was 2 or 3 people to operate that, and they'll bring it out on stage, and it's pretty elaborate.
I went to, what was the name of the convention? It was Celebration Star Wars Celebration 3 in Indianapolis now 4 years ago. Okay. And they had so many different costumes, everything from just like what you said was kind of a bikini for Princess Leia, but then they had an elaborate one. It was actually the robot guy from the most recent movie. Okay. But it looked like it was, just a robot operating on its own. You have something that elaborate?
Well, there's a guy that actually brings an R2-D2 robot that he's built. Most of the costuming that goes on there is very detail-oriented, with people who spend all year planning their costume for Archon. There's a lot of pictures on the website that you can take a look at. The Masquerade has their own website that we link to that keeps track of all the different ones, and you can see some of the just absolutely outlandish stuff that people have done.
Well, that's great. That's really fantastic. So what do people do if they want to go to Archon? Where do they go on the web, and how much does it cost?
Well, you can't register because we're so close to it. You have to only register at the door. It's this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, October 1, 2, and 3. Again, it's at the Westport to Sheraton. There are 2.
That's Creve Coeur? Is that Creve Coeur?
Actually, I believe it's Maryland Heights.
Maryland Heights. Okay, gotcha.
Right,
gotcha.
Just at Interstate 270 and Page.
Okay, great. And hotel reservations, you just call and make the normal.
Right. Now those you can still get to through the web. We have a link there, or you can just walk up and get them. The Sheraton, I believe the Sheraton Tower is the only one that's left open. There's 2 Sheraton hotels there, one on either side of the plaza, and we'll have programming in both buildings.
And they'll have like a schedule and itinerary and everything ready to provide to people?
Yeah, that is still available on the web. It's what we call the Pocket program, but it'll give some idea of the different types of programming that's going on, from writers' workshops to demonstrations. We've had sword demonstrations, all kinds of different things.
We've been talking about vocabulary and trying to provide vocabulary and sign language to people while they're watching the Interpreter Toolbox podcast. And so I had asked Jim if he wouldn't mind coming up with a few different words. And so we came up with a few. Right. The first is probably the most important of this list, and it's friends. This convention will be nothing without friends. And so we're going to focus on that first word, and it's friends. You're going to take this hand shape, your kind of index fingers, and they're just going to layer next to each other, just like Jim and I would shake hands. It's very much the same thing. And so, friend. That's the first one. The second one is convention. Convention. Obviously, because Archon is a convention. And it kind of comes from, there's a whole bunch of people, and they're all gathering in one place, so it's a convention. Convention. The third one, what else did we talk about? You remember?
I don't.
You know, how about remember? Remember, we'll talk about a different word. Remember. You take your thumbs. This is where it's going to be remembered. It's in your head. You're going to remember. Remember. That's a perfect word.
Right.
I use the cheat sheet here. Another word we talked about. Oh, costumes. Costumes. Because Halloween is soon coming, we'll also talk about costumes. And obviously, it's a mask that you put on. So you've got one in this hand, you have one in this hand, and it's costumes or masquerade, or I've seen that for Halloween as well. There's so many different words that you use for so many of the different words that you'll see inside of sign language because of just the general areas. It all changes in cities, towns, and whatever else. So costumes. Another one. Because writing happens there. In fact, there's actually guests. We forgot to talk about the guests. Over the years, there have been many people that have attended, and they'll speak and do sample workshops and stuff. What's your favorite guest that's ever come to Archon?
Well, I think I don't like to use words like favorite because what may be my favorite isn't necessarily somebody else's.
Sure,
I can tell you the con that was the most highly attended was when Ray Bradbury and Ray Harryhausen Both attended.
I went to that one.
Were you there?
That was the last one I went to, and that was 97-ish, right in there. It was exquisite because you absolutely get to see a hero, two heroes of science fiction, both writing and movies, and it was spectacular.
Yeah,
it was great.
It was very, very, and that's probably our highest attended one. We've had Stephen King there. We've had many writers, L. Sprague de Camp, just people throughout the science fiction community.
Well, and that's stellar because where else are you going to see those people?
Right.
It's a perfect chance to meet the people that create the science fiction and everything else that you like. So remember to go to Archon this weekend. It's October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd here in the St. Louis area. Remember, you can go to the website. The website is www.archonstl.org. And all of the information is there, as well as the contact information for Jim and a host of other people that help to put on Archon here in St. Louis. Again, I'm Mike Wilkerson for the Interpreter Toolbox Podcast. Thanks for coming, Jim. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, absolutely.
And if you're looking for more information about the Interpreter Toolbox Podcast, remember to go to interpretertoolboxpodcast.com. And also, thanks to Sprint's Relay Missouri for sponsoring this podcast. Remember, if your business or organization is interested in sponsoring this podcast, contact us via the website, again, at www.interpretertoolboxpodcast.com. I'm Mike Wilkerson. See you next time.
Thanks for watching the Interpreter's Toolbox. For more great information about interpreting life and to check out our growing listing of sponsors, check out interpreterstoolbox.com.